Are you afraid of your kidneys failing? Do you feel uneasy or have pain somewhere in the kidneys? Stop eating that banana before bed. I know. Every health video on the internet has told you fruit is good for you, fruit is your friend, fruit will save your kidneys. But if you are one of the millions of people over 60 walking around with early silent kidney damage, that healthy bedtime snack might be pushing your kidneys closer to failure, not further from it. Nobody tells you this part. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. And I have spent the better part of 2 decades in nephrology, that's the branch of medicine dealing with kidneys, watching patients walk into my office convinced they were doing everything right. According to the National Kidney Foundation, roughly 1 in 7 adults in the United States is living with chronic kidney disease right now. And here is the number that should genuinely alarm you. Nearly 9 out of 10 of them don't know it. Not because they weren't paying attention, because kidney disease is one of the quietest diseases in the entire human body. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And by the time it screams, you're often already in trouble. Before we go any further, I want to do something a little different. I read every single comment on these videos, every one of them. So down below, tell me your age and tell me this. Have you ever had a doctor actually explain to you what your creatinine or eGFR numbers on your blood work mean? Just a yes or no and your age. I promise you I will be reading. It helps me know who I'm actually talking to, and it helps me shape the next video around what you actually need. Now, I promised you something surprising, and I'm not going to make you wait for it. Later in this video, at number 2 on our countdown, I'm going to tell you about a fruit that most senior citizens have been told to eat more of for kidney health, and how, for a huge percentage of aging adults, it may be quietly doing the opposite. It shocked me when I first saw the pattern in my own patients. Stay with me because we're building up to it properly. Let's start with the foundation. Why do kidneys fail in the first place? Think of your kidneys like 2 incredibly sophisticated water treatment plants, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, filtering about 150 quarts of blood daily, and pulling out the waste, the excess fluid, the toxins your body doesn't need. When you're young, this plant runs at full capacity with backup systems and redundancy built in. But after age 40, your kidney function begins a slow, gradual decline. And by the time many people reach 70 or 75, they've lost a meaningful portion of their original filtering capacity, even without any diagnosed disease. That's simply the biology of aging. The problem is that on top of this natural decline, we layer on decades of high blood pressure, undiagnosed or poorly controlled diabetes, chronic dehydration, overuse of certain pain medications, excess salt, and, this is the one nobody wants to hear, simply not going to the doctor for regular blood work because I feel fine. That phrase, I feel fine, is the most dangerous sentence in nephrology. Kidneys can lose more than half their function before you feel a single symptom. There is no pain receptor screaming at you the way a toothache does. Your kidneys just quietly do less and less work until suddenly they can't keep up anymore. And that's when the fatigue hits, the swelling hits, the confusion hits, and people say, this came out of nowhere, when in reality, it was building for 15 or 20 years. So what are the actual symptoms you need to watch for? Persistent swelling in the ankles, feet, or around the eyes, especially in the morning. That's fluid your kidneys should be removing, but aren't. Fatigue that doesn't improve with rest, because failing kidneys can't produce enough of the hormone that tells your bone marrow to make red blood cells. Which brings us to anemia. More on that in a moment. Changes in urination, foamy urine, urinating much more or much less than usual, or getting up multiple times at night. Persistent nausea, a metallic taste in the mouth, or loss of appetite, because waste products are building up in the blood instead of being filtered out. Muscle cramps, especially at night, from electrolyte imbalances. And confusion or difficulty concentrating in more advanced stages, because toxins that should be filtered are instead affecting the brain. Now let's talk about anemia, because the title of this video mentions it specifically, and it deserves its own explanation. Your kidneys produce a hormone called erythropoietin. Think of it as a text message your kidneys send to your bone marrow saying, make more red blood cells, we need oxygen delivery. When kidneys start failing, that message gets sent less often and less strongly. Fewer red blood cells means less oxygen reaching your muscles, your brain, your heart. That's why so many seniors with undiagnosed kidney disease describe feeling like they're getting old or slowing down, pale skin, breathlessness walking upstairs, constant tiredness, when actually what's happening is anemia driven by declining kidney function. This is why blood work matters so much. A simple, complete blood count alongside kidney function tests can catch this pattern years before it becomes a crisis. Which brings me to the tests. If you are experiencing any kind of pain in the kidney area, that's the lower back, just below the ribs, on either side, not the very bottom of your spine, here is exactly what should be requested. First, a serum creatinine blood test combined with an eGFR calculation, which stands for estimated glomerular filtration rate. Think of eGFR as your kidney's report card, a single number that tells you roughly what percentage of normal filtering capacity you have left. Second, a urinalysis checking specifically for protein or blood in the urine, because healthy kidneys shouldn't let protein leak through. Protein in urine is often one of the very earliest warning signs, sometimes appearing years before creatinine levels change at all. Third, a BUN test, blood urea nitrogen, which measures another waste product your kidneys should be clearing. Fourth, if pain is significant or one-sided, a renal ultrasound to physically look for stones, cysts, blockages, or structural changes. And fifth, if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, a urine albumin to creatinine ratio, because this combination catches kidney damage in diabetics far earlier than creatinine alone. I want to be very direct with you. If you are over 60 and have never had these tests, this is not optional information for later. Ask your physician for this panel at your very next visit, even if you feel completely fine. Let me tell you about a patient. I'll call her Margaret, 71 years old, from a small town outside Sacramento. Margaret came to my clinic because her daughter insisted, not because Margaret felt anything was wrong. She described herself as tired, but what 71-year-old isn't tired? Her blood work showed an eGFR in the mid-40s, meaningfully reduced kidney function, and mild anemia that she'd chalked up to just getting older. We caught it early enough to intervene, adjusting her blood pressure medication, addressing her sodium intake, and putting her on a structured nutrition plan. 18 months later, her kidney function had stabilized, her energy had returned enough that she was gardening again, and most importantly, she avoided the trajectory toward dialysis that so many patients don't catch in time. Margaret's story isn't dramatic. That's exactly the point. Most kidney disease doesn't announce itself with a dramatic moment. It announces itself with, "I'm just tired." And that's precisely why so many people miss it. Now let's get into what you actually came here for, the countdown. I'm going to walk you through 5 things, ranked from least to most powerful, that support kidney health, protect against further decline, and, for many people, can meaningfully improve how your kidneys function as you age. And I want to be honest with you about something important before we start. If you already have diagnosed kidney disease or kidney failure, some foods that are wonderful for a healthy person can actually be harmful for you, particularly foods high in potassium and phosphorus, because failing kidneys can't clear these minerals properly, and they can build up to dangerous levels in the blood. So everything I'm about to tell you applies to general kidney protection and prevention. And if you have an existing diagnosis, please run this list past your nephrologist or renal dietitian first, because your individual restrictions may be different. I'd rather you double check with your doctor than assume a video applies perfectly to your specific situation. Number 5, hydration timing, and specifically water consumed earlier in the day rather than late at night. Here's why this matters more as you age. Your kidneys rely on adequate blood volume and flow to filter effectively. Think of it like a delivery truck that needs enough fuel and enough open road to make its rounds efficiently. After age 65, your body's thirst signal becomes measurably less reliable. You simply don't feel thirsty as reliably as you did at 30, even when you're mildly dehydrated. Chronic mild dehydration forces your kidneys to work harder to concentrate urine and conserve fluid, which over years contributes to added strain. But drinking large amounts of water right before bed causes a different problem for aging kidneys. Reduced nighttime bladder capacity and hormone shifts mean you're likely to wake repeatedly to urinate, disrupting sleep, and poor sleep itself is linked to worse blood pressure control, which circles right back to kidney stress. The fix is simple. Front-load your hydration. Aim for the majority of your fluids between morning and mid-afternoon, tapering off in the 2 to 3 hours before bed. Pair this with a pinch of attention to electrolytes, not sports drinks loaded with sugar, but simply not skipping meals, since food itself provides a meaningful portion of your daily fluid and mineral balance. Get this timing right, and you reduce nighttime strain on organs that are already working with less reserve capacity than they used to have. But hydration alone isn't enough, because what you're hydrating with and around matters just as much, which brings us to number 4. Number 4, sodium awareness, specifically hidden sodium in processed and restaurant food. I want you to think of sodium like sandbags loaded onto that delivery truck I mentioned. A little bit is fine, but too much and the truck can't move efficiently anymore. High sodium intake causes your body to retain fluid, which raises blood pressure, and elevated blood pressure is one of the 2 leading causes of kidney failure worldwide, alongside diabetes. After 70, kidneys become less efficient at excreting excess sodium compared to when you were younger, meaning the same amount of salt that your body handled easily at 40 can meaningfully raise your blood pressure at 75. The tricky part isn't the salt shaker on your table, it's the sodium hiding in canned soups, deli meats, frozen dinners, and restaurant meals, which can contain more sodium in a single serving than you should have in an entire day. Practically speaking, aim to prepare more meals at home where you control the salt, read labels for anything under 140 milligrams of sodium per serving as a good target, and season with herbs, garlic, lemon, and pepper instead of salt to retrain your palate over several weeks. Taste buds do adjust. Pair reduced sodium with increased potassium-rich vegetables like leafy greens and squash if you do not have diagnosed kidney disease, because potassium helps counterbalance sodium's effect on blood pressure. But again, if you already have reduced kidney function, check with your doctor before increasing potassium intake, since this is one of the areas where general advice and kidney patient advice genuinely diverge. Now, before we get to numbers 3, 2, and 1, the ones that surprised even me when I started researching them more deeply for this video, I need to ask a favor. If you found this useful so far, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It genuinely helps this information reach other people your age who are searching for the same answers you were searching for when you clicked on this video. I make these videos because I believe seniors deserve clear, honest medical information without the jargon and without the sales pitch. And the only way I can keep doing that is if this channel grows. So take 2 seconds, tap subscribe, and let's keep going, because number 2 is the one I teased at the very beginning. Number 3, blood sugar stability, even if you've never been diagnosed with diabetes. Here's a fact that surprises a lot of my patients. You do not need a diabetes diagnosis for blood sugar swings to damage your kidneys. Prediabetes, which affects a substantial portion of adults over 65, causes the same slow damage to the tiny blood vessels inside your kidneys, just at a slower pace. Think of the filtering units inside your kidneys, called nephrons, as millions of microscopic sieves. High blood sugar essentially thickens and stiffens the walls of the tiny vessels feeding those sieves over time. Similar to how sugar crystallizes and hardens when left out, it's not a perfect analogy, but it captures the stiffening effect. This is why blood sugar control matters for kidney health, even in people who will never be diagnosed as diabetic. Practically, this means prioritizing fiber-rich foods, pairing carbohydrates with protein or healthy fat rather than eating them alone. And, importantly for this age group, being aware that muscle loss with aging, something called sarcopenia, actually worsens blood sugar control, because muscle tissue is where a large portion of blood sugar gets stored after eating. Less muscle means less storage capacity, means higher blood sugar spikes, means more stress on those tiny kidney vessels. This is part of why gentle resistance activity, even just standing from a chair repeatedly or light resistance bands a few times a week, supports kidney health indirectly by preserving the muscle that helps regulate blood sugar. Pair stable blood sugar habits with a short 10 to 15-minute walk after your largest meal of the day, which measurably blunts the blood sugar spike that follows eating. This is one of the simplest, most underused tools in preventive kidney health. Now, number 2. This is the one I promised you at the start. Berries, specifically blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries, sit in an unusual position in kidney health conversations, and here's why it surprised even me. These fruits are frequently recommended as kidney superfoods because of their antioxidant content, specifically anthocyanins, which help reduce oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress like slow rust building up inside your cells from normal metabolism, and antioxidants act like a protective coating that slows that rusting process. For a kidney with healthy function, this is genuinely beneficial, and there is real reason berries get recommended so often. But here's the part that gets skipped. Berries are also relatively low in potassium compared to many other fruits, which is exactly why they are one of the safer fruit choices for people who already have reduced kidney function, Unlike bananas, oranges, melons, and dried fruits, which are considerably higher in potassium and can be genuinely risky for someone with declining kidney function, because impaired kidneys can't clear excess potassium from the blood, and dangerously high potassium can affect heart rhythm. This is the confusion I see constantly. Patients hear, fruit is good for kidneys, as a blanket statement, load up on bananas and oranges because those are the most common fruits in the house, and don't realize that if they have any degree of kidney impairment, those particular choices may be working against them, while a fruit like berries would have been the safer, still antioxidant-rich choice. For general kidney protection in someone without diagnosed disease, having a small handful, roughly half a cup, of mixed berries in the early evening, rather than right before lying down, gives your body several hours to process the natural sugars before sleep. And pairing berries with a small amount of protein, like a few almonds or a spoonful of plain yogurt, slows sugar absorption and enhances how efficiently your body uses the antioxidants inside the berries. Again, if you have diagnosed kidney disease, confirm portion sizes with your renal dietitian because individual potassium tolerance varies. But for kidney protection generally, and for helping avoid the false equivalence trap of all fruit is equally kidney friendly, this distinction is one of the most important things I can tell you in this entire video. Which brings us to number 1, the most powerful item on this list, and it isn't a food at all, it's blood pressure control. Specifically, consistent, monitored, well-managed blood pressure. I put this above every food and supplement because the data on this is simply the strongest. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is, alongside diabetes, one of the 2 dominant drivers of kidney failure in adults over 60. Here's why aging kidneys are especially vulnerable to blood pressure swings. The blood vessels feeding your kidneys naturally stiffen with age, a process sometimes called vascular aging, which means the same blood pressure spike that a 40-year-old's flexible vessels absorb without damage hits a 75-year-old's stiffer vessels with much more direct force, transmitted straight into those delicate filtering units we talked about earlier. Over years, repeated pressure spikes physically scar kidney tissue, and scarred kidney tissue doesn't regenerate. Once it's gone, it's gone. This is why I tell every patient over 60 that a home blood pressure monitor is one of the single best investments they can make in their own longevity. Full stop. Not because you should obsess over it daily, but because trends over weeks and months tell you and your doctor something a single reading in a stressful doctor's office visit never can. That phenomenon actually has a name, white coat hypertension, where blood pressure spikes just from the anxiety of being at the doctor's office, masking what your numbers actually look like in normal daily life. Practically, take your blood pressure at the same time each day, seated, after resting quietly for 5 minutes, and keep a simple log for your physician. Pair consistent monitoring with reduced sodium, the gentle movement we discussed earlier, and stress reduction, because cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone, directly raises blood pressure, meaning that chronic stress in your 60s, 70s, and 80s isn't just an emotional burden, it is a measurable physical burden on kidney tissue. Even 10 minutes of quiet breathing or a short walk outside daily has been associated with meaningful blood pressure improvements in older adults over just a few months. Let me tell you about one more patient before we close, because I think his story captures why this all matters. I'll call him Robert, 68, a retired mechanic from outside Cleveland. Robert came in after a routine physical flagged both elevated blood pressure and slightly reduced kidney function. He told me, almost word for word, "Doc, I've fixed engines my whole life. I know what happens when you ignore the warning light." We built a plan together, home blood pressure monitoring, a walk after dinner, cutting back on the canned soups he'd been living on since his wife passed, and switching his evening fruit snack from a large banana to a small bowl of berries with a few walnuts. 2 years later, Robert's blood pressure is stable without needing a medication increase. His kidney function has held steady rather than continuing its decline. And he told me something that stuck with me. He said he finally feels like he's driving the truck instead of just watching it break down. That's really what this comes down to. Because here is the truth I want to leave you with. Kidney disease doesn't have to be your story. Even if you're 70, even if you're 80, even if you've just found out today that your numbers aren't what you wish they were, the kidney is a remarkably resilient organ, and the choices you make starting this week, this evening, with your very next meal, genuinely change the trajectory of what happens to your body over the next 5, 10, 15 years. This isn't about perfection. It's about independence, the ability to keep living in your own home, keep gardening, keep walking your grandchildren to the park, keep doing the things that make life feel like your life, without dialysis, without hospital stays, without losing the freedom that comes with a body that still works the way it's supposed to. Quality of life in your later years isn't decided the day you turn 60 or 70. It's decided in the small, boring, repeatable choices. The water you drink in the morning, the walk after dinner, the blood pressure cuff on your nightstand. It is genuinely never too late to change this trajectory, and I have watched it happen in my own clinic more times than I can count. If this video gave you something you didn't know before today, please subscribe to the channel, because I have more of these breakdowns coming, built specifically for people navigating health after 60 with honesty instead of fear. And I want to leave you with a question for the comments below. Have you ever had blood work come back with a number you didn't understand, and nobody took the time to explain it to you? Tell me about it. I read every single one, and it genuinely shapes what I make next. Take care of that truck. It's the only one you've got.